Today, left-wing activist is charged in the Capitol breach, which is weird because I heard it was only specifically right-wing agitators. We will get into that. Also, Andrew Cuomo changes course on lockdowns, and Politico staff is triggered by Ben Shapiro. We've got a lot to get into this Friday, and it starts right now. Happy Friday. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, joined by you-know-who. It's Stu and Pat. Stu Burguiere, host of Stu Does America, and Pat Gray, host of Pat Gray Unleashed. Both can be found on Blaze TV. Thanks for being here, guys. I know it's the highlight of your Friday.
It is. Seriously is. Thank you for having us.
We're just talking about, Pat especially was talking about how he loves to stay on Friday and do the show. So
yes, huge fan.
Thanks, Pat.
If we could do the show a little bit later, it'd be even better.
Would it?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't get up. You don't get up early or anything.
No,
so.
not earlier than 2:30 in the morning. So it's perfect.
But by the way, he's not joking about that. He's got a really early radio show, which I also know about because when you're gone, a couple times I've filled in and been like, this is awful.
It's stupid early.
And I often wonder, like, does Pat hate his life? Because this is horrible.
Yeah. Every day I decide, all right, this is the last day I'm going to do this. Every day.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Headlines of the day. A left-wing known agitator from Utah was charged yesterday for his alleged participation in the breach of the U.S. Capitol. This guy.
This picture's cracking me up.
You know what? You're laughing, but I'm here to tell you there is a trend with the crazy left wing and the crazy eyes. They've all got them.
AOC's got them.
AOC definitely has them. It is really weird. But John Earle Sullivan, this is his name, he has been charged with entering a restricted building or grounds, civil disorders, and violent entry or disorderly conduct. You know, of course, he had appeared on all of these news programs talking to them. But also, this is an alleged report. There is a woman who I believe is a freelancer. She has done work for CNN. She has done work for several media organizations, mainstream media organizations. Now, allegedly, this is her in this video we are about to show you, along with the man, John Sullivan, who was arrested for this Capitol breach. And she says, we did it. We did it. Finally. Watch.
I'll give you your hug now. We did it. You were right. We did it.
Dude, I was trying to tell you. I couldn't say much.
You were right.
You just have to watch my chat.
Oh my God.
Is this not going to be the best film you've ever made in your life? No.
That's it.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah?
Hell yeah.
Wait, you weren't recording, were you?
I'll delete that. But I didn't record you or me. It was just voices.
Spoiler alert, he did not delete it.
Should have deleted it.
He did not delete it like he said that he would. But this does go along with...
Listen for all the ladies. They never delete it when they say they will.
They don't. So the FBI, of course, has come out and noted that there have been some left-wing agitators that have been spotted in the Capitol breach. But you wouldn't know it if you listened to maybe CNN, MSNBC. You wouldn't hear that because they're here to tell you why anyone who ever voted for Trump is also part of the KKK.
Yeah, that is basically their take on it. I mean, look, I think there were, as we've talked about this a little bit from the beginning, there were definitely some left-wing people there. They've identified a couple, 2 or 3 that we've known of. There's probably more than that. People who are just chaos agents and want to go crazy on whether they care about Trump or not. There is also a lot of people who really like Trump in there. I mean, there's no doubt about that. These are people who are well-known, many of them internet celebrities who are up there doing all sorts of crazy things. But like this kind of comes down to this idea of, was it us that did it or was it them that did it? And we can definitively say it was them that did it. Who is them? It's people who would want to rush the Capitol. It's people like QAnon. It's people that like some of these potentially Antifa type people. It's also, though, people, you know, like the Boogaloo movement and anarchists, and it's all them. None of those people relate to me in any way. Just because they also might like Trump's tax policy does not mean that that's us. It's important to decipher and distinguish between us and them in this one. And like, you know, I've been calling it the QAnon riots because like, you know, we can talk about, they keep saying the Trump supporter riots or the MAGA riots. That's not fair. Like, there's no reason to believe that the average Trump supporter A, was participating, but B, would support this. There's no evidence of that whatsoever. What there's evidence of is these far fringy conspiracy groups, these, you know, I don't know, what do you even call the Boogaloo movement, but it's a weird combination of left and right-wing views stacked on top of strange militias, and it's all, you know, sort of this crazy world that, frankly, none of us take very seriously. Like, I've spent very little time bothering with that stuff because, you know, to me it's so far out there and it doesn't seem like there's ever going to be an impact from it. It's just it was like birthers, right? Like there's people out there that said things about, you know, Barack Obama that weren't true and whatever. And this has turned into something big here because of these actions. But it's important to distinguish, you know, 74 million people out there. MSNBC wants to tell you there's 74 million people that broke into the Capitol. Right. And that is not true. The overwhelming majority of people who voted for Donald Trump think this was as despicable as it was.
Yeah, Pat?
Yeah, I barely know who QAnon is now. I mean, barely. The only thing I really know about them is that they kind of started with the pizza basement thing, right?
Pizzagate, yeah.
Yeah, the pizza in the basement where they were running a sex slave operation out of the place with no basement. It was a pizza place that was featured on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, though, so you know it's pretty shady. Pretty shady. I think
like
Food
Guy
Network
Fieri
is pretty loose about where they go,
Yeah.
and I feel like there's some scary operations going on. But I mean, that's about what I know of them, and they have some other weird conspiracy theories about, I don't know, are they the lizard people or weird? I mean, really weird stuff. And then, of course, you're going to get some elements of the left in there trying to instigate things, too. So, I mean, I think we all wish it wouldn't have happened. I think we all wish that that they hadn't busted into the Capitol building. But here we are. And so we've got to condemn it, just like we would any other riot.
Right. Well, and I do think it's important, too, to note, I mean, you know, we can argue about who started it if we want to be in middle school. But when you look at it, even if Antifa started it, clearly there were some people who claimed to support Trump who went in on it. I mean, we know that because, you know, rest in peace, Ashley Babbitt, but she was seen jumping into the window. Whether or not you think that she should have gotten shot is a completely different story, but she was breaching the grounds. She was trying to climb in, and she was a Trump supporter. So, you know, I mean, it's, again, you can't say that all Trump supporters are evil. Obviously, the mainstream media is taking it to the extreme, but for whoever started it, there were other people who joined in and shouldn't have. Yeah, no, I really want to make a "we didn't start the fire" joke right now, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to hold back because then Pat will go into all the lyrics and we'll be sidetracked for hours. The Ashley Babbitt thing is interesting because John Sullivan, the person you started this segment with, has one of the one or two views you've seen of that incident. He was the camera guy for her being shot. And he seemed to, on tape, and is in the accusation, I went through it earlier today, that he did encourage her to climb through the window. Right. So, like, you know, again, that does not mean that Ashley Babbitt is not in control of her own life. She is a very big Trump supporter. But to put a finer point on it, she really is. She was down the road of these QAnon conspiracies, and like QAnon is just one of these. But like, this is a poison. It is a freaking poison. People get sucked into these things and they can no longer see reality. You brought up the Pizzagate thing. There's a guy, the Pizzagate thing I feel like almost basically sort of ended and blew up when a guy brought a gun to the pizza place. I can't think of the name of the Cosmic Pizza.
That's close.
Something like that. Something like that. And went in there with a gun and said, "Show me the tunnels. I want to see the kids running through the tunnels." Like, we don't have a basement, dude. Like, that was legitimately the interaction of what happened. And everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, Donald Trump. Look at he inspired this. He didn't shoot this stuff down." Right. Step back for a second and think about this guy. Here's a guy who has been on the internet obsessively for God only knows how long, thinking that children are being sexually assaulted in the basement of this pizza place. Now, I know it sounds ridiculous, but he believes it so strongly and believes he wants to stop this from happening that he shows up to this place with a gun and then realizes, then, like, you know, the curtain gets pulled back. And he has this moment where he's like, holy crap. I mean, he basically says it to the police officers at the time. I really thought like that we were going to see like hundreds of kids and I was going to save them. And he has this moment where he realizes everything he's believed over the past year was false. Thousands and thousands of people around the country are going through that right now with QAnon. After seeing what happened at the Capitol, people who really believed it and probably would have typed into their little computers, you know, it's our house, we're going to go ransack it. Like would agree with those general elements. And some of the people who were in the building fall into that category. I think though, you're seeing a change of people going, wait a minute, this has gone too far. A lot of these people start these conspiracy theories because they think it's fun. It's like a weird way to question authority. And they get so far down these roads. I think it's important for us to kind of like, look at this, identify it as the poison that it is, but also like understand that it doesn't make you a horrific person. Like a lot of times people get wrapped up in these things and don't mean it. And it's important to give, not the criminals, but like people who are just involved in these conspiracies, give them an off-ramp so that they're not seen as just like the worst people in all of society. The left wants to take these people and rake every one of them that's ever said anything about this over the coals. And it's not, the end of the day, that doesn't work out well. You wind up getting people even further in their bunkers, and that's not what you want.
To me, it shows just how distrustful we are of our government. I mean, the people can buy into that. Think about what a weird conspiracy that is, and all these Democrats who are running, you know, child sex slave operations out of their offices or whatever they're doing. And I mean, it's a pretty weird conspiracy theory. I don't even know how you buy into it. But people are so distrustful of government that they do.
But
they just do.
But would you say that they have a legitimate reason to be distrustful?
Oh yeah,
right.
Absolutely. That's the thing. You've got every reason to be distrustful of our government.
It just doesn't always manifest itself in the right ways, right? I mean, and sometimes it does go. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, people who I know who are sensible, coherent people who go through life and go to work and do these things are telling me to this day that Donald Trump is going to be president on January 21st. Like, Donald Trump has said he's transitioning. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he's said he is transitioning power to the next administration. What more do you need to know? But no, he's going to organize the satellites and talk through the emergency alert system, or he's going to rule from space or whatever. I mean, like, this
that
stuff
would be cool.
It would be cool.
That would be cool.
It would be a good
if he can rule from space, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Let's
maybe
do that.
he does deserve 4 more years if he can rule from space.
He does.
I mean, it's pretty
impressive. He does. If he rules from the International Space Station, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
I'd love that.
I'd be all in.
That'd be cool.
But like at the end of the day, like, this is really bad. But we should also call out the media for not highlighting the fact that we now know that left-wing agitators were there. The left, have you seen what they're trying to do, which is come up with these conspiracy theories that say that he's been a Trump supporter the whole time, even though he was
John Sullivan?
Yeah, that he was.
Got to be kidding me.
Oh yeah, multiple people. Oh yeah.
Oh my
big names. Big names in the Seth Abramson and Max Blumenthal. People are trying to piece together that this guy actually, despite the fact he's been on CNN as a guest to represent the Black Lives Matter movement.
And he was the instigator of the Provo, Utah protest, where one of the protesters walked up and shot a guy in his truck.
He was just undercover.
He was the instigator he put that one together.
He was just undercover.
Yeah, just undercover, sure.
Yeah, it's not real.
Wow.
And you should see we should at some point talk about, I mean, maybe off the air, but go find this if you're on the internet. There's a PolitiFact fact check about whether there was left-wing people there. And they are doing everything they can to try to get out of it.
Right.
It's like, just admit it. Right. Like, that doesn't mean, this is obviously largely a bunch of people who were QAnon and that sort. But like, the fact that there were left-wing agitators is something we should know. It's something law enforcement should understand, that these elements get into these movements and do try to make it worse and encourage it. That being said, that doesn't take any responsibility from the people who did it. But this guy, who was left-wing, was one of the people who did it. And seemingly his friend that we just caught on that video was one of the people who did it. And again, never trust a guy to delete a video.
On that note, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Bonner Wines. We've got this wine partnership for Wine Fridays. All right, so whenever I get an excuse to open a bottle of wine during the show that I tape, I am all about it, all right? Especially when you've had the morning that I've had with my baby, who won't stop crying ever.
That's why they invented alcohol.
Pat witnessed it.
Yes, I did.
Pat was like, so is he always like this? Or, yes, he is, Pat, which is why I have Bonner wines. Now, they make a lot of their wines up at these remote vineyards. They're at very, very high altitudes. It's 9,000 feet, all right? They're miles from civilization, and the result is this delicious red wine. If you are a wine drinker like me, maybe you just have multiple kids. And so it's not even, you're just like, I need wine to survive. You got to check out these wines. They are also healthier than other wines, by the way, which is why they fit in with my lifestyle. They've got 10 times more longevity boosting resveratrol, say that 3 times fast, and 90% less sugar. They don't have any dyes or additives. And it's got the blackberry, leather, smoke, a little hint of dark cherry. I'm telling you guys, you need this wine in your life if you're a wine drinker. You got to go to cowgirlwine2021.com. They've got Malbecs, again, from the 3rd highest vineyard in the world. You got to try it. It is Cowgirl Wine 2021. Our listeners and viewers are getting 50% off of shipping today. It's cowgirlwine2021.com. Back in a minute. So a group of researchers at Stanford published a peer-reviewed study earlier this month. It was assessing the impact of lockdowns and stay-at-home orders. And the study did not find evidence to support that these interventions were effective in preventing the spread. They said, in summary, we failed to find strong evidence supporting a role for more restrictive interventions in the control of COVID in early 2020. We do not question the role of all public health interventions or of coordinated communications about the epidemic, but we fail to find an additional benefit of stay-at-home orders and business closures. The data cannot fully exclude the possibilities of some benefits, but if they exist, these benefits may not match the numerous harms of these aggressive measures. And of course, it is with that being said that I'm really trying hard not to make Stu blow a gasket. But I will just say, Andrew Cuomo, magically, it's weird because I feel like there's been this small group of people who have been saying basically what this Stanford study has come to the conclusion of, which is
that it doesn't help.
Right. It's not worth all of these ridiculous lockdowns. Of course, New York was like, you're not even allowed to go to restaurants. You can't do anything because of COVID. And everyone kept saying, hey, you're going to ruin your economy. And like, this is probably not worth it. Well, now all of a sudden, Andrew Cuomo comes out and announces via tweet, we simply cannot stay closed until the vaccine hits critical mass. The cost is too high. We will have nothing left to open. We must reopen the economy, but we must do it smartly and safely.
What has happened in the last little while that would have caused him to change his mind like that?
It's bizarre.
Was it November 3rd he changed his mind?
Just a random date. Just a random date.
Just a random date. It just seems like it was around the 3rd of November when everything started to change. They just did a story about Los Angeles, too, who's been locked down almost the whole time.
Yeah, mask mandates.
Yeah. I mean, they are really locked down. And they are right now the nation's hotspot for COVID-19.
That's weird.
It helped not at all. Not at all.
Not one. But the answer to that, I think, is to just double down on it.
Right.
Always. It's always the answer. When you're Andrew Cuomo, it's always the answer.
Right.
It's bizarre. I mean, the study is interesting, too. I mean, it's one of many studies on this, and it does quite clearly say it doesn't show any benefit above and beyond measures like social distancing and things like that. And that is, I think, the central part of this, which is they use countries like South Korea as their basis. And if you can catch the thing early and then just have common sense, you don't have to worry about it, right? Yeah. You don't have to do these things. Probably the only time you could, if you wanted to argue for actual shutdowns at any point, it's probably Andrew Cuomo's New York in March and April, right? Like, that's not Wyoming, but you could argue that maybe there it was so extreme at that point you needed to do it, especially because we didn't know anything about the disease at that point. You could at least argue it. What's crazy about Cuomo is after all of this came down in the summer, nothing was going on. And he still kept the lockdowns in.
Yeah.
And he hasn't started to loosen things up until now when things are back out of control. It makes absolutely no sense. He is always wrong at every single step, to the point, Sarah, that he is actually losing multiple public disagreements with Bill de Blasio. How do you lose? Bill de Blasio is the least popular person on earth, with the exception of Andrew Cuomo. That's why Andrew Cuomo is awful.com. It really is incredible. I mean, he lost to him on schools. Right. He said he wasn't going to shut down. After de Blasio said they were, then they shut down the next day. He said the same thing about schools. We're not going to shut down schools. They did it like 2 days later. He's done it here when de Blasio was saying, hey, we need to open things up a little bit. He was like, no, 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 no. When there was no, and I swear the only reason he kept this locked down, because you make a point about the election, which I think is understandable and maybe true and maybe just part of it. Another part of it, though, you have to remember, this guy released a book in October where he was bragging about his leadership.
About how great he was.
He had to keep those numbers as low as possible, screw the economy. Because it's like one of those things where, like, you're a football coach and you come in, the team was, 1-15, and the first year your quarterback gets hurt, and you're a new coach. Everyone's going to give you a break there, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what happened with Cuomo. They got hit hard really early when no one understood what was going on. And now, like, if you destroy the economy, people's minds already, the economy is already screwed over so bad in New York, there's nowhere to go. So he could just keep that economy like that and keep everything closed to keep his numbers down. And I swear, you look at the chart, the second this guy released his book, the numbers in New York are going through the roof. I swear, it's like the origin story of coronavirus is this guy's book. It's that ridiculous. It's a slight exaggeration, but only slight.
Any idea how many copies he sold of that book?
I have not seen
very many, right?
The last one he sold, he got a $700,000 advance, and he sold, I think, 3,700 copies total.
Oh my gosh.
It may be less than that, but it was.
My God.
Oh my gosh.
That's a bad investment.
That's not even going to cover the
bad investment.
The advance.
Oh, not even close.
No,
not even close. I mean, he would have to sell probably 150 to 200,000 to cover the advance, and he sold 3,000. Now this one definitely sold more than that because he was in the middle of, he was getting, adoration from every media.
That's what I was going to say, is like all of the mainstream media, I mean, probably to this day, is just fawning all over him for how he handled it.
Yeah. And again, like, you go to this.
He was the worst in the world at handling it.
And we're not even
the worst in the world.
Just the world.
But just this world.
Just the world.
We don't know if other worlds handled it worse than him.
Yeah.
We don't have that information yet.
There
it
was
could be
a
on the way.
breakout on Mars that I thought that got out of control for a little bit. But none of this is even addressing like what's going on right this minute, where Andrew Cuomo came out, and forget what you think about the vaccine, whether you like it or you don't. Right. His job is to distribute it to people who need it. So what he did is came out and said, hey, if you give it to someone, if someone cuts in line and you're a clinic and you give it to some 25-year-old who happens to be there, we're going to fine you $1 million and take away your license. So everyone's like panicked. So what they're doing instead is flushing the additional doses down the toilet. Because they're terrified of Andrew Cuomo taking away their license. And then he also instituted a fine at one point to fine people who flushed things down the toilet. So, like, how do you if the person doesn't show up to an appointment and you have an extra dose, what are you supposed to do with it? Drink it? I don't even know.
Well, you probably would.
I probably would drink it. Yes, that's a good point. But it's got
a lot of chemicals in it. You love chemicals.
I do love chemicals. So, but he's come now back to the point where he's now released those things again, and it's one of the defining characteristics of Andrew Cuomo as a governor through this crisis is not just being wrong, but flailing wildly from one side of the argument to the other, back and forth. This tweet is really a highlight of who this guy is. How can he possibly tweet that and not think it's crazy? Like, he's been on the other side of this every day since the beginning of this, and to come out like this, like, I'm just going to sound like Donald Trump for the next 5 minutes, is like the most insane thing anyone can imagine.
I feel like he knows that it's hypocritical. He just also knows that nobody in the mainstream media is going to call him on it. Therefore, he can just write whatever the hell he wants and make it, as long as he makes it sound, authoritative, that it's going to be totally fine because no one will call him out on it.
And he's got good evidence to back that up, doesn't he? I mean, he did this entire book tour. No one followed up with questions as to why. he hasn't released these numbers about nursing homes. 49 out of 50 states have done it. 49 out of 50. The only state that hasn't done it is New York and Andrew Cuomo, despite the fact that he did an investigation, a me-vestigation on himself, where he exonerated himself.
Wow.
And in the exoneration was showing very detailed statistics about nursing home deaths. Now, why wouldn't you be able to release the ones that you got from the report if it exonerated you so wildly? He obviously didn't exonerate him at all, and that's of course the truth. And to make him, I see now you did it. To make him,
you got him started.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Then he took those numbers that he knew were wrong and went out and used them as the basis of celebrating his own performance. We're actually only 30th in the country when it comes to nursing home deaths. When he knows and has admitted, and his people have admitted, they have not released the actual numbers. He is resisting multiple lawsuits about this over and over again from people like the Empire Center who are doing great work to hold them accountable. And then it's like saying like, oh, you know, look, I don't know how many nursing home deaths there were, but since that number that we have admitted is low, what a great job I did in preventing nursing home deaths. Like, that's a psycho. Like, that is like American, like that could be a scene in American Psycho.
Yes.
So I'm confused. What are you saying about Andrew Cuomo?
Andrew Cuomo is awful.
You kind of like him? You sort of.
There you go. All right, we've got more to come if we can just get Stu like maybe some blood pressure medication before the next segment. That'd be great. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Built Bar. Which, by the way, I have to tell you, if you know, I'm sure a lot of you out there, you made the New Year's resolution, I'm going to eat healthier, I'm going to lose weight, and then you forget how awful vegetables are, and you're like, I'm not going to eat healthier because this sucks. Well, let me tell you about Built Bar. Built Bar is a protein bar, but it's way healthier than probably the protein bar that you might be eating that probably tastes like chalk. It's also low calorie, low sugar. It's great for keto diets. I eat them all the time. I just finally tried the dark chocolate cookie dough, and I almost lost my mind at how good it is.
Their candy bar good.
It's so freaking good.
Yeah, they really
everything that I've tried from them has been amazing. And I know I said this last week, but genuinely, I had to stop. My husband cut me off. I had to stop ordering.
Oh, my entire refrigerator is filled with these things.
I have seen your refrigerator. Lisa, it is worse than mine.
Was, as far as I know, the first person I've ever heard of that started eating these things, to the point that now she's recommended it so many times. You know, she's an Instagram account, at Lisa Page made me do it if you want to follow her there. But she's recommended it so many times. They actually painted a mural of her at the Built Bar company.
Faces on there.
There's a mural of Lisa at the company. That's how many of these things she sold.
It's great.
Wow.
But with good reason, because they are genuinely.
She loves them.
They taste amazing, and you're eating something healthy. So really and truly, if you have made that New Year's resolution and you're looking for something that tastes great, you don't have to feel like you're just eating cardboard, it's Built Bar, all right? They've got caramel brownie, cookies and cream. They've got chocolate orange, peanut butter, mint brownie. They're all covered in 100% chocolate, all right? Don't give up your New Year's resolution yet. You got to go to BuiltBar.com. Use promo code News20. You'll get 20% off of your next order. That is News20 at BuiltBar.com. Back in a minute. The Politico staff, Politico, has revolted after Ben Shapiro wrote the Politico Playbook this week. Now, of course, this is like their morning newsletter, right? It's their equivalent of a morning newsletter, Politico Playbook.
Yeah, it's like a DC tip sheet.
Right.
It's been going on. I mean, it was I think Mike Allen was doing it for a very long time, and he left recently.
Yeah, so they've been getting guest people to come in and do it. They asked Ben Shapiro. Apparently, according to Ben Shapiro, he was like, not sure if you want me to do it, just letting you know it's probably going to cause you problems. And they were like, listen, it's fine. You're not going to say anything inflammatory. It's totally fine. Well, it was not fine because Ben Shapiro, you know him as the white supremacist, alt-right, basically a Nazi. That's how you know him, right?
No.
That's not how you know him?
No. I know he was the #1 media target of the alt-right. That may have been how people got confused.
Well, weird that they're eating themselves, Stu.
Oh, okay.
So he came out and said, you want to talk about inflammatory statements, here you go. Opposition to impeachment comes from a deep and abiding conservative belief that members of the opposing political tribe want their destruction, not simply to punish Trump for his behavior. Republicans believe that Democrats and the overwhelmingly liberal media see impeachment as an attempt to cudgel them collectively by lumping them in with Capitol rioters, thanks to their support for Trump. And apparently Politico staff is revolting, which is coincidentally kind of proving his point that the left just wants to cancel everyone who doesn't agree with them.
Yeah.
By the way, happy birthday, Ben Shapiro. This is all happening on his birthday.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, it was 250 people on a Zoom call complaining about Ben Shapiro.
Yes.
It's like, there's certain people in the media you could see and be like, okay, this person maybe says extreme things or he's this terrible. I mean, I don't see how you get that from Ben Shapiro. He's really smart. He makes good points. Like, I think they're afraid of Ben in a lot of ways.
Yes.
But still, like, this is insanity. If you can't take Ben Shapiro's analysis, a guy who was not doing any of the things that associated with the Capitol, he wasn't out there saying like, oh, we need to.
He told the entire right the election fraud did not happen,
Yeah.
and by the way, that it was not constitutional for them to go through the not certifying the Electoral College.
Yeah, I mean, he was clear about it. I mean, if like in a rational world,
right,
people who were worried about what happened at the Capitol would want to highlight and magnify the voice of a guy like Ben Shapiro, who is saying to his own side, which is harder than doing it to the other side, to his own side, hey, maybe this thing that you're really excited about isn't a thing. That's hard to do. I mean, we've all had to do it.
It's really hard to do because when you do it, if you do it, you get called a traitor.
Yeah.
And that makes it pretty difficult because the other side doesn't want to hear your opinion. And then if you lose your side, then it's not a good business move. But it is amazing how the left gets away with weaponizing the articles of impeachment. Clearly, all they've done is use it as a weapon against Trump. I mean, when you've got 10 days in office and then you launch an articles of impeachment effort.
Are you saying that that's not tax dollars well spent?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, I am saying that. Yeah, and then when the Senate's not even going to be able to hear the trial and possibly convict until after he's gone from office. So you're going to remove him from office after he's removed himself from office. The whole thing is ridiculous. The left pays no attention to that. And the only thing they can do is go after people on the right who are opposed to it. It's unbelievable.
Well, and I mean, you think about the precedent that this is setting. I mean, especially now that they are going to control everything.
Yeah.
What happens? What happens? I feel like any Republican, anything is just going to be removed from office by the left. Yeah, anytime they ever gain power. I think that's going to be the precedent that we use from now on, which is horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, impeachment is supposed to be like a big, last resort type of thing.
Right.
And look, you could look at, I think the best argument against impeachment right now is we don't know what happened yet.
Yeah.
Like, because there's this reporting out there, right, that says that Donald Trump, in the middle of this, not talking about inciting the riot, not talking about the election fraud stuff, while it's going on, while people are inside the Capitol breaking windows, they go to him and they say, hey, send out the National Guard and stop this. And he says no.
Right.
I can't believe that would be true.
No,
okay?
I don't either.
It's a media report. But let's just say there was an investigation and we have a wire from the president directing them not to go. I would completely be for impeachment. I would be absolutely for it. If he let that go on and did not send the people to stop it, and we had to rely on Mike Pence to send out the National Guard, which is what the report says, if that were true, I would totally be for it and have absolutely no hesitation whatsoever. A person who does that should not be running the country. When we have to rely on going to Mike Pence to do this, obviously, I think it's just blatantly obvious to every conservative that that's not appropriate. Right. Maybe we'll find out that that's actually true. But the only way you would find that out is if you took your time and did things with a real process. Like, I think there's a legitimate argument. It's not even a question. It should be done. We should know everything about this. They're in the middle of highlighting, these big arrests that they're having from people who are wearing Camp Auschwitz shirts and such that were there. And we need to know everything they were texting to each other. Yeah. This example of the video you played earlier of a left-winger talking to what seems like another left-winger about how they've been planning for a while to get into the Capitol and they finally did it is something that would indicate it was pre-planned by some of these people. Right. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that Trump should or should not be impeached, but it's an important piece of information. All this stuff is just coming out. You're impeaching him blindly. We don't know enough about it. I mean, obviously, pragmatically, it has absolutely no effect in that he's leaving anyway. But I want an investigation to know if he should be held responsible for this in some other way. I think that's totally appropriate. It's just ridiculous to force a vote on a bunch of people who have no idea whether this is true or not.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. Why won't he condemn the riots? Why won't he do that?
I mean,
why won't he condemn racism? And why won't he condemn the riots? And yes, white supremacy.
Are you talking about other than all of the
Other than all the times he's done it, multiple times with both issues, why won't he do it?
Right.
Okay,
and, and his last statement was like the 5-minute statement he released the other day, like in the middle of the impeachment stuff, was, I thought, right on tone. And if he would have done that while they were inside the White House, we would not. I do not think we would be here.
Well, he did tweet out, "Stay peaceful." He did tweet out, "Support the police." Go home.
What else did he say?
Okay, fair. But he did try to tell them that, and Twitter deleted it.
That is true. And what else they deleted was when he said, hey, this is what happens when you steal an election. Remember this day forever. And he said that, by the way, at 6 p.m. So, but I mean, to your point on Twitter, I think you could look at that and say that was arguably his worst moment through this. Like, that was not a good tweet. I mean, they were inside the Capitol. He was saying, Mike Pence let us down. And they're going, hang Mike Pence. None of this is good. None of it's good. I'm not going to say it's good.
You believe they would have, though? I do not believe any of that.
No.
I mean, they were beating the hell out of police officers, some of them. Again, a tiny minority. But I mean,
it was mostly peaceful.
It was mostly peaceful.
Yes,
I will say
that's what I've heard. That's the standard here.
Yes.
But I don't think it was great. But like now, if you wanted to say, well, what did Donald Trump say through those moments? You can't find it on his Twitter.
Right.
You don't know. Even if you want to make a point against Donald Trump, you can't even see the tweets.
And it's bad. And I just had a conversation with a very close family member, and they're only looking at the clips that the mainstream media plays, and I'm like, right, but he also said we're going to march peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol. Yeah. Had no idea that it had happened because they don't show that part.
And the riot started before he was even done with his speech. I mean, the weakest part of their case against Trump is that he incited it with that speech.
Right.
I think you can make a real point about some of the stuff he said leading up to that speech, and I think you can make a point of how he handled it once the riot started. I think there was real problems there, and that's the part that I think is the most damaging. Yeah. But beyond that, like the idea that he was sitting there telling people to go overthrow the Capitol. I mean, he didn't do it.
Right.
I mean, he wasn't careful with his language, but the left is never careful with his language either. And one of the guys making the speech, and I'll finish this, but one of the Republicans at their when they were making their little 1-minute speech said it really clearly. If we are going to impeach everybody who makes a passionate, fiery speech to partisans, we're going to have no people left in the state in this house. And it's true. Everybody does that. You can make a zillion examples of the left doing it. It's just that this particular thing happened on this particular day. A lot of things went into it, not just one speech.
Yeah. All right, we've got more to come. Back in a minute. He said the word fight, though, still.
No. Oh, yeah, because no one's ever said that before.
No, never. It's never been used. Those of you with small children present, you may not want them around for this segment.
No, this is meant for children.
That's true.
4 to 8-year-olds.
That's fair. There's a cartoon out. It is a Danish cartoon that parents have begun expressing their outrage over. It is called John Dillermand, which apparently in Danish, I guess his last name, it means penis man. And he apparently has the longest penis in the world.
It's 25 feet long.
Really, 25 feet. Well, I guess that would be probably the longest penis in the world. I don't know.
I would think
it's
so.
too long. That's too long.
You would think.
After you get beyond 2 feet.
Yeah, there's really not much purpose to it.
It's,
other than not having to get off the couch to go to the bathroom, there's not much purpose.
So, I mean, we're joking about this, but this is a real thing. It's a legit thing that is being, I mean, obviously it's for children. It's a cartoon or the claymation, whatever you call it. Here is the intro to the show, John Dillermand. Watch.
Goddag, det er John Dillermand. John Dillermand. Han er verdens længste dillermand. Der er næsten ikke noget, han ikke kan.
Look at all the things you can do with it.
A helicopter.
Super talent.
Han kan redde hele verden, hvis han bare fik lov. John Dillermand.
Is he whipping a lion?
Yeah.
John Dillermand. John Dillermand.
He can even fly.
So that is something.
They're going to talk about the length, but it's the control that impresses me.
Yeah,
he can do all sorts of crazy stuff with it, and it's impressive.
The excuse of the producers was amazing. We're not using it as a sexual thing, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Oh,
And kids like jokes about that sort of stuff.
They do. They love it.
What's funny, too, is the outrage, because there is outrage against this.
Yeah.
The outrage is not like, hey, why did you make a TV show about a guy's junk? That was not the outrage. The outrage was in the Me Too era. Look at this. This person is just running. He's running the world with his penis, and then the producers had to respond. They're like, well, we should note that at one point one of the characters asks him to put it away, and he does.
Oh, well then.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Oh, that's great. Good news.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. Well, there's one parent in defense of it says her 3-year-old son, that's great, watches it and finds it funny. She says, I'm not sure he completely grasps that what the 8-meter creature actually is. So it's good that, he's not, it's just a creature there. I can't. Look, I don't have one, so I feel there's very limited things I can say.
Yeah, I will say
comment about, but this just doesn't feel right to me.
Most of the things shown in the trailer, guys can't actually do. Just so you're aware.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I was unclear on it
Some of it would actually hurt quite a bit.
Yes, that's all.
Lifting a washer dryer set like you did with it, that would be painful.
Not easy.
Yeah, not at all.
No, you probably go to the hospital for something like that.
I would think.
I mean, so again. Do you think that I'm struggling to find anything helpful at this point on this particular topic? But I feel like everything that happens in the other countries just slowly trickle onto the United States. And to say that would happen is not, I don't think, a stretch, because we've got kids shows about like trans people, right? The name is escaping me right now. But they're like cartoons about like trans superheroes or something.
Are you comparing transgender
That's what they will say
to people with 25-foot penises?
Yeah, don't even look at Twitter.
I mean, I guess
now
it's fair. That's not really an accurate comparison. But,
No.
Maybe sexualizing kids programs is not what we want.
I'm just amazed that because I would think it would be like parents being like, why are we encouraging this sort of stuff?
Like, I don't like the programs with the fart jokes.
Right, exactly.
So
Exactly. I've gone down that road too. I have 2 small kids, and they like all the fart jokes, and like I don't want them watching Captain Underpants. Like, I don't want them doing that all the time.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the complaints there are like it's too conservative. Right. They're saying basically it's like, well, we should not be teaching people that men with their penises can be the heroes of everybody. Right. And the penises are always doing things, getting in everybody's business.
It's actually toxic masculinity.
Yeah, that's
portraying.
Legitimately the actual complaint in Denmark.
Yeah. Well, I would just like to say before we go to break, men, do not try that at home. Do not try to whip a lion with your penis. Do not try to ride balloons into the sky with your penis. I think that it will end very, very poorly. We'll be back in a minute.
It's a good public service announcement there.
Oh, right. I need it to be said.
Yeah, it's from the Ad Council.
As you've heard me say earlier this week, if you are one of the few who have not yet gone to wherever you get your favorite podcasts and looked up the news and why it matters, subscribed, rate it, reviewed it, then you're missing out. All right, here are a couple reviews for you. Renegade 2016 says, I listen to the show every day. I love it when Stu and Pat are guests.
Yes.
Always a lot of good info and always makes me laugh. Is it?
Brilliant
person.
Probably genius intellect.
You think so? Wow, that is, wow. Here's another one. Johnny Iron says, I listen to the show almost daily. Great guests and insightful conversation. And I love Stu's hair. Keep up the great work.
Very unremarkable hair, I feel like.
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah, it's just like normal hair. It's there still, which I'm excited about, frankly.
Well, apparently it's more than normal, because we got 5 stars because of your hair.
Hey, I bring the stars. That's what I do.
So thank you. And of course, there are a lot of you who have used the "it's great, whatever" on this show.
You're welcome.
We have seen those, but if you have not yet, you may find your review read on air. All you got to do is go to wherever you get your favorite podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever, and subscribe, rate, and review the news and why it matters. Thanks for being here, guys. I'm going to go drink more wine now.
It's always good.
Happy Friday.
Every problem.